Okay, I want to call to order the meeting. It's January 14th, 2020, and I call to order the annual governance workshop study session of the Roman Unified School District Board of Education. It is now 10:38. 8:38.
It's actually
8:38. Roll call, please.
Certainly. We have Donna Friedman.
Here.
Carrie Ten.
Here.
Lynn Evankamp.
Here.
David Malkin.
Present.
And Angelina Pride is not present. She is running a few minutes late. She plans to join us in about 10 minutes.
Are there any changes or items we pulled from the agenda?
None from staff.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move. I'll second.
Can we have a first and a second to adopt the agenda? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Agenda is adopted as presented. Can I have a motion? Any? Okay, we'll be doing the flag salute. Please stand. And Donna, you want to
I would love to. All right, yay. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Dr. Mitchell, are there any comments?
Yes, there is one.
We have one individual from the community, Mr. Roy Humphreys.
No, first you have to say that. Don't you have to read it
Yeah.
before we talk?
Read that statement. Just one second, Mr. Humphreys, before we start.
Good morning, and thank you for all the good.
Just 1 second. You guys can
I have to read-
Oh,
I
yeah,
have to read your
okay.
preamble.
Read the gospel, please.
Yes, read the gospel. Please raise your right hand. The public is welcome to provide comment to the board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes unless extended or limited by vote of the board. A maximum of 20 minutes unless extended by the board is allocated for each subject discussed. The Brown Act open meeting regulations under which the board must operate do not allow board members to comment on non-agenda items or information you may bring up that are not on the agenda. Additionally, no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a comment. Mr. Humphrey?
Okay, thank you. Can I start now? Thank you for all the good things you do. We are in a new year, and the winds of change are upon us with a long overdue emancipation before us. In the spirit of the emancipation, I'm here to be helpful. And first, we'd like to help out Ms. Pride, and thank you. She got here just in time for that. And this is something that you all have, because there's some consternation about, hey, is there any difference between the North and the South? And here we notice these are dots that signify the Latino voting population. In the North, you look, it's very dense up there, but down here, very sparse. And on the with your right, we have the Asian/Chinese. Look down south, whoa! So there, and you have a lot of Chinese up north too, but nothing then compared to the south. Hence, I think we can put that one to sleep. As ipso facto, we have a difference. And then for Ms. Evankamp, Ms. Evankamp has some consternation about the failure of achievement scores to significantly increase over time, regardless of the institution's efforts. The answer, Ms. Evankamp, it's culture, pure and simple. And Mr. Malcolm, and to help you out there is no place in the 21st century public school system for anybody who believes that transparency is a buzzword, which that incorporates all you, but hopefully over time in the next few years all that's going to change. And then Mr. Chen, something that we need to deal with is that the leadership of the board should not allow the persons that they hire for the administration, like before you, to bully them. And we have that on video, by the way. And Ms. Friedman, something to should be foremost. The teachers and the staff, so forth, they're responsible for taking care of the kids. What the administration/board, the board is to run a business, and public school systems are businesses. And I have to also thank you, if I got plenty of time here, to thank Roger Liu, who was the money man for my campaign situation. And we have Harold and Wendy Toy, and we know the impact that they've had on this district. One Chu, we know about him. Harry Peterson, you still owe him big time. And William Harrison there, and Shay Lohman, who's played a large part in this. And of course, last but not least, Carlos Perez. For without him, we know where we would be on the voting rights of this district. And next time I see you, I have a report to you about a young man who's going to Cornell University Law School. You're going to really enjoy that one. Thank you very much, and you're the rat.
Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. We will now recess the closed session at 8:41. We'll take a...
All right, so we're going to go into closed session at this time. We are going to stay in this room. So we are going to clear the room for our closed session. So we are staying in this room for our...
Okay, and you'll open the door when you come back, right? In the open session.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, thank you. I'll get a burger, and thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I really like the constellation here. It looks quite nice.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, the first item for returning is the governance team workshop from 10 to 11, a little bit shorter than that. We're going to talk about the board evaluation. And everybody has their report now from CSBA on the board evaluation. I just want to go over a few items on here before we discuss them. I realize you all read it and you had, but I just want to make sure that we're all interpreting the information the same. Does everybody have that in front of them? Okay, first of all, this is an evaluation that's being done, and it's each board member's perception of how the board is functioning. And since it's the perception, there's no right or wrong answer. It's how each board member sees it. So when we discuss it, we're not just trying to convince somebody else that they're seeing something wrong. But if they are seeing it differently than we are, it's something that we need to discuss. So it's a perception of how each board member sees the board functioning under the categories that we were questioned. The board evaluates themselves to demonstrate the district's leadership committed to continuous learning, even at the board level. School boards evaluate themselves to create a culture of using feedback to get better, to improve what they're doing. And school boards evaluate themselves to demonstrate accountability to the community who had elected them. And when I was at the CSBA conference for the presidents, we were one of the handful of school districts that do board evaluations. I was really surprised. We asked for a show of hands, and not too many school boards do an evaluation, especially on an annual basis. So we get credit for that, for doing that. When you look at the scores on the CSBA instrument that we used, there's 4 possibilities on how you score your perception of the board. One was a green battery, one was a blue battery, one was a yellow battery, and one was a red battery. Of course, green is the best, most positive. Blue is second, yellow, and then last would be the red. If you go through our evaluation, you'll notice that everything is green and blue. There are several areas where people marked not sure. But all the other ones that were scored blue or green or blue. The green doesn't mean that we all scored everything a 1. You could score something a 4 or a 3 and still be a green. So there could be a difference in perception even within the green category. The blue category would mean there's a bigger discrepancy. So somebody scored something a 4 and somebody scored it a 2. So there would be a bigger discrepancy there, and that would normally end up as a blue. So everything we scored were either green or blue or not sure. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the blues and the greens, but before we do that, what I would like to hear from everybody here is when you look at the score as a whole, holistically, are you surprised by the way the scores came out? Are there, and then we'll dig down into the individual items after that. I'm curious how you as a board, each one of you, feel holistically about the report as a whole. So Angelina, can we start with you first? So you're not surprised? Okay. Lynn?
I had a few where I rated as higher than the average. And I think part of that is because I know what's in my head, but it might not have been obvious to me what's in other people's head. I did rate a couple of them, I'm not sure, or at least one. And one of that, I don't know, one or two of them. There's one that kind of. Doesn't show.
Yeah, we'll go more specifically into the individual
What's
items.
overall now only?
Right now, we're just looking at the total.
Okay, so, I think it's a pretty fair tool to use. But, maybe as we go into discussion, we can share perceptions, why we thought we wanted to.
Okay.
I think every format has a different standard, and for myself, I usually I don't pick number when we do the evaluation. I don't pick the 1 to 5, right? I don't pick 5. I usually pick 4 because I think always we have room to grow, so I pick 5. But I was debating between 5 or 4. If you pick 5, I mean green.
Green would be 4 or would be
4 and 5.
4 and 5, yeah.
So I think for this, for everybody, there's no yellow or red.
Right.
So I think the you were pretty much set every score, high score.
Right.
So I think this I think it's pretty much reflect what we are thinking. This is good, and this evaluation majority of the work are very satisfied.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at red as being unsatisfactory. I look at red as being, there's a disagreement amongst the board on how you see how we're doing. It's not a good or a bad, it's just a perception.
What do we all think we need to work with?
Yeah. Okay, Donna?
I'll be the same as Angelina. I am not surprised at all. It's nice that Board Unity was completely green, not even a blue, and we worked very well together, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, from the workshop that I went to, for the President's Workshop at CSBA Conference, this didn't surprise me either. What I was surprised at was the number of boards throughout the state where they don't get along with each other, and there's a lot of in-house fighting and disagreements and not unity amongst the board members. So when I saw us, how I see our board compared to what I was hearing at that workshop, this didn't surprise me. What surprised me was what I heard at the workshop. You know, I thought that we were more the norm, but we're the exception as far as how we get along as a board. What I'd like to do is ask each board member to look at the items, individual items, and look at 3 of the green items. Those are the ones that have scored the highest, either 5 or 4. And identify those 3 items that you think are the most important.
for our board to be functioning at the optimum level. So if you just take a few minutes to pick those 3 items.
Say that again.
Pick 3 of the green items that you feel are the most important for the operation of our board, or 3 of the items that you feel that we might need to work on the most.
Is it or?
Even though they're green?
We're gonna do both. We're
Oh.
gonna do green and we're gonna do blue.
The second
Well, no,
one
no,
is not
this
going-
green, this green.
Okay.
This green, isn't this green?
So not to work on the ones that we're doing well.
Well, the green item can be a disagreement in the green. Doesn't necessarily mean everybody scored a 5.
No, but it's a strength. So
Yeah,
if
it's a
it's green,
strength.
it's a strength
Yeah.
for most of the members on the board. And
Right.
so it would be, one of the things that we talked about last year was, what were pick the 3 greens that you're most proud of, that we want to make sure that we continue to maintain and keep cognizant
Right.
of our work. But if we,
I'm thinking of what Kerry was saying, that he was scoring things 4s because he didn't want to score, I think, a 5 because he feels we could do better. So.
but our,
so- But pick up, huh? Oh, yeah, 4.
there's 5 areas, but one is not sure.
Yeah.
So it's a 1 through 4 where they're not sure.
Oh,
I have a
do you
question.
want them in different areas or does it matter?
I'm trying to put my scores on this one so I can see the difference. And I see number 13 and 31, they've got 20, you've got the numbers out of order, 22, 23, 24, 18, 31, and 25. And so
It's,
it's kind of.
and the
messed
reason
up.
is because this is the document CSBA gave us, and what they did is they put them under bands. So the first band is board unity. So it just so happens questions 1 through 6 refer to board unity. And then the questions of roles and responsibilities do happen to fall, 7 through 11. Board culture, and then board operations. But, so the assessment wasn't necessarily in that order. As I understand it, that's what, it seems that, it looks like there's
They
some,
have them grouped, so you're probably right.
let me double check to see, let's see. So some of the,
Wait, I don't know, they're in order here, we have roles and responsibilities, 7 through
right.
certain others.
So are the ones, I don't know if the result key comes in the same order that you answered the questions, was what my point was.
Yeah, I have it, actually.
And if not, I don't know why, it wouldn't be.
And I think part of it is so that you're not answering, I don't know if it is or not, but from a teacher's perspective, when you're organizing a test and you're trying to get some feelings, you don't necessarily ask the same types of things in clumps, you mix them up to see if there's a change of opinion throughout. But I don't know what, David has his printout too, I don't have it. Are the numbers, do the questions not line up on the answers the same as it lined up on the assessment?
I think they do.
They do, it just,
Until which one?
Number 17, then it goes to 12, then it goes to 19,
Okay.
then they go in order for a while, then it goes back to 18 and 31.
Are you looking at the,
on the questionnaire, it's,
okay, okay, okay.
So, never
I
mind,
don't know.
I was trying, I won't.
Yeah,
do that.
sorry, I
was
think
trying
David was trying to do the same thing, and I don't know, I don't have what you guys have.
yeah, the numbers do,
Okay.
they don't follow the same sequence.
So I need to look for our 3 strongest.
Yeah, also the subtitles,
Are
there's
different.
more subtitles on the results than there is on here. Does everybody have the three? Julie, you want to write them up there? Julie will write them up on the board up there.
Markers.
Hey, Donna, we'll go start with you first.
The ones that were thought were very important, right?
Yeah, the top three.
Okay,
Green
so
ones.
the board is focused on achievement for all students.
What number is that one?
1,
Okay.
How about the second?
I got it. I was just. Okay.
on number 9, board members keep confidential matters confidential, sorry.
Okay.
27, board members come to meetings prepared.
Okay.
So Carrie, your top three.
My
This is the green ones.
number 3, board stay focused on district priority. And number 20, board members receive adequate information. Actually, 19, 20 is going to want to put it the same. Receive timely information, the same, yeah, good copy. But have pretty much big.
Do we want timely, adequate, or same?
Yeah, there are three, these three are.
Receive information.
Yeah, I think 20, they only have to.
20?
Yeah.
Adequate. Okay.
And number 26, for me, they have to practice the priorities.
So, all right.
What was the number of the last one?
26.
Okay.
3.
Okay, my 3 are 1.
So that's
One
one.
is 7, 7, 2, 1, 2.
Not under the check mark. Okay.
My second one is 18, the board governs within adopted policy and guidelines to manage board operations.
Board governance. And that, you said that was 18?
Number 1.
And then my last one,
Oh, sorry, what do you?
sorry.
I'm just gonna put et cetera, because it's number 18. It's longer. Okay, go ahead.
And then my third one is number 28, the board effectively releases data and decision.
Data in its decisions.
Decision making.
Thank you. Okay.
And then it's a common vision.
Okay.
Number 6, do not undermine board decisions.
mine is number 1, the board is focused on the teaching of our students.
Okay,
Number 6, individual board members do not undermine board decisions.
that was the same as Angelina's, right?
Right.
Okay,
And number 38, the board adopts clear and measurable indicators to assess district performance.
This is out of order. That's Angela's time.
I don't have that.
I'm missing a page.
Or you
Have that
can't
page?
I just realized that. Yeah, mine stopped at
35
35.
to 48. I don't have that
You're
page.
missing
Yeah,
two.
I guess that.
Are you sure it's not out of order? What section is it? What section?
It's under setting direction.
Where are we?
okay, I'll fix it. I'll go do it. Board adopts clear indicators.
We might want to all change our decisions.
I know, well, I'm gonna go, well, before I write that, let me just have Randy run it again.
Just
Page 4 and 5.
4 and 5?
Four.
4. Are you guys, you have 5? So you have, you have.
Yeah.
Five, not
Got
four.
it.
Page 4.
All right, thanks, no one.
I know, isn't that terrible? Just read them all
You
and.
went through yours or yeah, or?
No, I just went through it.
You did?
When you said that number, I'm like.
Where is it? I couldn't, I
I got
couldn't
it
either.
separately. Maybe it's someplace else on that.
David didn't want us to see it.
What did it do though? Yeah, the fact they're not in order, I thought, well, I'll just see how my answers all compare with, and then they're out of order, I'm like.
I wonder if that's, for cluster, they cluster them under more categories than what's on the question.
Why did it do? There's no reason for it. There's a category. They could categorize.
On page 4, it deals with setting direction, structure, and support.
It does.
Yeah.
That's all right, you're right.
Thank you.
Oh, one's right there. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then, so tell me, David, your last one.
Number 39.
Okay, board adopts clear and measurable.
Indicators. See, that was important too.
All right, who wants to change their mind now?
Yeah, I wanted
We probably should discuss all of this.
As I say, what we're going to do is, normally one would look at the yellow and red batteries, and we would, develop a plan to bring those up to green and blue. But since we don't have any red and yellow, we're going to look at green and blue, which are really strings. And then after we're going to do the same exercise for the blue batteries. And then out of that list, combination list, we're going to pick 3 that we feel would make our board even stronger. So we have to look at our strengths to make it stronger rather than our weaknesses. So if somebody else already put up one of the items on page 4, well, I wouldn't have put it up because they don't have 4 on page 4. But if there's something on page 4 that you really want up there, please add it.
I can close it up
Okay. Okay.
Good.
So let's go now to the blue battery.
Do we want to talk at all about green before we go to blue? We want to do blue first? Whatever you want to do.
Well, we can pick out the 3 from this. Huh?
Ready.
Ready. Let's look at this list now that we have on the green battery. And let's pick out the 3 top ones off of that list now.
And we'll just, you don't have to do it individually, we can just discuss it now. Which ones do you feel are the top 3 out of this list that we have?
The focus on achievement for all students is absolutely. I think that one goes without
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I think they're all necessary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's our goal that we do, because we need everything green. What's our goal with the 3? Because when we have blue, we want those
Yeah.
blue to become green, so that was
Right,
our goal
right.
with 3.
Right.
I think the one about, well, I think I like that first one. And then I think the one about policies, number 18, that's what we do, is we make policies.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me would just be to remember where we're at with all of these things that we listed, as being strengths, and, that we all agree are strengths. It makes sure that we don't get lazy and start to, not focus on them as much. We need to make sure we still keep a strong focus on all of those things. Just because we see the ratings here and we think, oh yeah, that's great, we need to make sure that we keep it great, and that we make sure we all still agree that that's, something that we're doing and that we're focused on. Because sometimes they'll start to fall by the wayside because people get comfortable and think, okay, we don't need to focus on that anymore.
Although these are all strengths, I looked at it more, the things that were most important to me as a board. So that was kind of the way I looked at it.
I'm also looking at it in the sense that it's after being on the board for 4 years, you do tend to, be less, I don't want to say less involved, but these are reminders that I need to come prepared when I come to the board meeting. I need to read all the packets, all the information. I need to keep my focus on all students, and not just a certain group of students.
They
So-
become given.
Yeah. It looks obvious when you look it up there, but when it comes down to coming to each board meeting, it's like a reminder what our purpose is.
But that second one about confidentiality is very important. Being able to trust the district and vice versa.
Right.
Realize that employees and students are important, and we don't divulge information about them in the public. That when we make decisions about them, they are done in closed session. So that confidentiality is very important.
And you hear constantly, about the north and south side of the district. And I think that tends to happen when you don't consider all students. And if you keep your focus on all students, then those barriers, north and south, tend to, fade away. So going with our teacher over here.
No, you're facilitating. You
These
got
are,
this.
since they're green, I would say these are reminders, what we feel are important for our board to function at the optimum level. And these are reminders for us to keep these in mind when we do our board work.
And to Julie, that's why the data is so important to the board, because we're the public
Yeah.
entity. And we do
Well,
a
like
good job of
Angelina-
getting that information to us. And there's evidence that we are continuing to move up, even though we'd like it to move up much faster.
Right.
Sometimes you can get certain parameters.
Yeah. Well, and I think like Angelina said, it's a good reminder, because if you lose sight of where you are and where you want to be, and what's the green line, so it's a good reminder, and a good reminder, I think, for you guys to have taken the time to prioritize. All of it is important, but these are the 3 to 15 things, because each of you selected 3 that are most important to you as a board. So these are the things to not lose sight of.
Okay, now the blue batteries are the ones that there was some difference in perception on how we're doing. So why don't we pick the 3 blue batteries now that we feel if we had to put our most effort into to become green.
Okay?
And number 51,
Uh-huh.
board monitors the implementation of board policies.
The implementation.
Of board
Board
policies.
policies. Okay?
Number 10, sorry.
That's okay.
And what is 10?
This is the board gives direction to the superintendent only at board meetings. I don't know that we do this on a regular basis. I think a lot of times it's done not at board meetings. To me, my vision is that that's an area where we do need to improve, and I guess everybody thought it was
Okay.
something we should work on. And then I'm going to line 2, and I marked not sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, one of them is 44, the one that Carrie had up there. The board member demonstrates commitment to district priorities and goals. Is that up there? Oh, no, sorry, no. I wasn't not sure on that. 44. And then 51 is the one Carrie had. The implementation of board policies.
And then the implementation right here.
Um,
Okay?
Okay, number 17, discussing questions about agenda items prior to meeting.
Okay?
29, confines its meetings to a reasonable length of time.
I knew, I read that thinking, oh, that's actually.
Wow, we've come a long way.
How about say that?
Yeah, we
You've been on
have.
the board for a long time, you know what it used to be like.
That's what we just
Used to
said.
get out of here at 12 o'clock at night.
Okay?
And number 30, good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and importance of the item.
That's where you get lost in the muddle.
See, Julie, you get in your exercise while you.
I know, I'm doing a squat right now, yeah? Right.
Especially with the catcher.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
If that's catcher's squat.
Okay.
You won't have to write them down. Oh, Lynn got one and Evelina got my two.
Okay.
So the board, 10, the board gives direction to the superintendent only at board meetings. I agree with Lynn, I don't think we just do it then.
All right.
That's why I didn't really like that question, because it was like, we had, but we had to rank it lower because it's not happening. I mean, anyways, and then the other one, 2 or 17, board members usually discuss questions about agenda items with the superintendent prior to the board meeting.
Okay?
And 30, there's a good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of the item.
Okay.
I know, you guys are like, she doesn't have to write anything.
All right.
Okay, my 3, the first one is the board gives directions to the superintendent only at board meetings.
What number
Number
is
10.
that?
Okay.
That's already there.
That's already there.
the board demonstrates commitment to district priorities and goals. Number 44.
Just remember to find it quick.
Number 44.
Okay?
And then the last one is the board monitors the implementation of board policies, number 51.
Okay.
So, we want to bring the blues up to the green. And
You see that, Donna? Better than if I put it behind you?
looking at the check marks, there's three, there's two that stand out, and there's three that are pretty close. So maybe we should discuss the two items that have the double check marks on what the issues are there. That be okay? Okay, so board monitors the,
Yeah, I think it's better back here.
I'll stick it back.
I noticed how you put the green and the blue.
Yes.
Watching, I just noticed that. Weathering
visual
maps
cues.
are a thing.
So board monitors the implementation of board policies. Let's discuss that one first as to what the issues might be there that brought down the score from a green to a blue.
Board members, we know the policies, but I don't know how we monitor them. That's
Yeah.
it's not clear to me. We're reminded if we're outside of the policy,
But this recently, Donna and I know myself and Dr. Mitchell, we went through the board policies that hadn't been reviewed for a long time. And the fact that they haven't been reviewed for such a long time would indicate that we're not monitoring them. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gotten behind that far. So
but
that's,
we've been working on those though too, right?
yeah.
Over the last year and a half.
And I think part of it, there's a significant number of policies that exist that are for legal compliance, which is the work that, that we do. Then there are those that we have the ability to change based on, what it is that, we can change any of them, but based on our practices or what our interests are. And so we did go through an entire board policy review. So we looked at every single board policy. Well, that was just the day you were. I mean, it was stacks and stacks. And we haven't gotten them back yet. But to your point, yes, there are some that must be reviewed annually. They are required to be reviewed annually, and we do bring those to you annually for review. And they were, the reason we did a full policy review is because we needed to do a full policy review. Many of them had not been looked at. But even a lot of those that had not been looked at, the update on it was just the confirmation or correction to make sure that it was legally compliant. Because there's so much legislation that happens all the time.
Who goes through the legislation and make sure that our policy is in alignment with new legislation?
So we hadn't done that with a lot of fidelity, and so that's why I said, let's just do an overhaul, and then let's do it with fidelity moving forward. So moving forward, Brandy and Lily and Josefina and whomever will be the Ed Services Executive Secretary will get the information, and then they are responsible to update the policy, work with the director, update the policy, and bring it forward to the board. And CSBA puts that out quarterly. So when we talk about monitoring board policies, we should quarterly see updates on our information. So let's say if they give us something in January, it's probably you wouldn't see it until March on a board meeting. And so you'll be behind by a quarter, but you should still see quarterly updates come through, unless there are none. And if it's something that the board is interested in regarding the implementation of board policies, I mean, we could have a standing item on our agenda, every March, every quarter, right, that just said board policy updates. and we go through it. So, and then there'll be some that will deviate from that, like, there's some policies that are coming forward at the January 23rd meeting. There's also some policies that have to come at certain times. But we have a collective commitment now to not spend 3 days like we spent, because you guys were there for half a day, which was a lot and very generous of time. And we, as staff, we had every person, this room was full. We looked through every policy for 3 days. And it was a cost to staff time, but a cost to support time to have us do that. And we still will have support to do that work, but.
Did you break it up? These people have
Different
this section?
department,
and-
Yep, yeah.
I went
I
to
took
the,
pictures of all of it, so when you asked, I could show you how we did it.
I went to the CSBA presentation at the conference on legislation affecting school boards. And I sent
Yep.
sent you the PowerPoint. I guess I can send it out to everybody.
You send it to me and I'll give it to you in the
Okay.
Friday letter.
Okay, because I asked the CSBA administrator if he can send me the PowerPoint he did the other day. And he was saying it was a record number of bills that were passed last year that exceeded far any other year as far as laws that changed the operation of school boards and education. And so he sent me the highlights of it all. So I'll send it out.
Last night at the coordinating council meeting, one of the representatives for one of the electeds got up there and she was saying, be sure to send me any ideas you have for bills. And I wanted to say, we have enough bills because every time one passes, it costs us money.
I think I need clarification on the monitoring part.
Okay.
Because the policy part is good, you keep us informed of everything that's going on, and we always update it, at our board meeting. But how do we really monitor there's too many? I think that's the big question on that one.
Yeah.
That's true, because usually, like you're saying, it doesn't come to your forefront unless something happens related to
And
that
then we have to go
policy.
to
Then
the
it's like,
exact-
oh, we're not gonna-
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think for the board, a lot of that is looking at your bylaws. The policies are a lot of legal mandates that we do and important work that we do. And there are others, because, graduation requirements is a policy, and there are things that we need to look at. But I would say that much of that you employ staff to do, to monitor the implementation of board policies. Because you set policy, you do the what, and we do the how. And so we would be monitoring that. So, and I think you guys do it, and now that I think of some of these ways, and you don't even realize you're doing it, because I haven't been articulate about it, but like every time you approve conferences, you're monitoring the implementation of a policy, because you have a policy that says any conference that is in excess of $1,750 must be approved prior to travel. And so that's a standing agenda item, but I would guess, had I asked before I explained it, you wouldn't have been 100% sure that that's what you were doing. So you're not really monitoring policy, but it's the practice associated with the policy that you rely on staff to make sure that we're implementing what it is you told us to implement.
We think we need to place closer attention to items that we are voting on for money. It's already occurred. Remember a couple of them at the back from behind. Is there something we could do in monitoring that would happen so often?
So,
Is that
so when it comes to, like, for instance, on this January's board agenda, this isn't exactly your question, but it might be related. There's 2 things for you to ratify. We as a staff try very hard for you not to be doing a lot of ratifications. 99% of what you do is approvals. But there are 2 ratifications, and it was for travel that happened during winter break for sports teams. We didn't have a meeting, right? So I gave permission that they could go, and I'm coming to the board to ratify. That isn't money. I mean, it did cost money, but different. The travel in costs, so you have a policy that says that if it's under $1,750 for conference attendance and travel, it can be approved by staff. If it's over that, it has to be approved by you. That comes to you before that money is spent. The, when it comes to purchase orders and recs and so forth, when you look at pay warrants and purchase orders, your purchase orders, you've already approved the expenditure, and then the warrants are paying it. So you've already said, okay, we can buy toilet paper and grass seed and paper and pens and pencils and those types of things as part of our operating budget, when you've either approved the budget or you've approved an item a lot of times at the beginning of the year, which is an open PO for a lot of those things. And then you're just approving the warrant. All of that is a ratification, because but it's been something you've approved long before. Yeah, but it does, like, you'll look and say, well, this check was written, it was a $20,000 check, but or a $200,000 check, and you will have approved it somewhere, but not, you're approving the check afterwards. So a lot of times the board will think, well, I'm just
Sometimes
ratifying.
the team playoffs, they don't know they're going to play.
Yeah,
And
yes,
we don't have time to
yes.
get them, I understand.
Yes, yeah.
And then also, from working in education, and you'll know this too, is sometimes if something changes, like LACO or somebody will put out a workshop and say, hey, we're gonna have this workshop to talk about this new change, and by the time you find out about it and everything, you get conference requests together for the people necessary to go, it's too late to get it approved, you just send them, and then we have to ratify those as well.
I have a question about some of that. When there are seminars or learning things for teachers and administrators that are away, how are the teachers made aware of those? Because I see a lot of administrators going, but not always very many teachers. I just want to know if something is sent out to everybody, or is it up to them? to see?
I actually see more teachers going than administrators going.
Yeah.
And it depends, oftentimes it is the administrator that tells the teacher. So it's IB training, AP training, teachers college training in New York. You've seen a lot of that lately, going to teachers college in New York. And there have been administrators, but there have been teachers as well. So LACO is one that tells us stuff. The minute we get information, but they're pretty standard, like we get information from Cal States and UCs for conferences for counselors, for instance. And we'll get information directly from, like, Teachers College for some of their workshops, some of their longer day things. Also for APIB conferences, AVID conferences. Solution Tree is one that you see conferences where teachers and administrators are going to Solution Tree conferences. So that's a professional learning community, a PLC, you'll see those agendized. So a lot of them are bigger organizations that we hear the information, or people have to kind of wait their turn to go, because you can't send everybody. So I went this time, you get to go next time, so we watch to see when that next conference is.
When somebody goes to an educational conference, is there a procedure where when they come back, they share that information with their colleagues?
Yes.
So it's like teaching the teachers?
Yeah, so there is an expectation. So when you go away to a conference or a training, big or small, that one of the things that you do is that you have a conversation with your principal or your supervisor as to how are you going to share the knowledge that you learned and how are you going to implement the knowledge that you learned. So if it's relevant for the entire staff, then that person would do a presentation at a staff meeting. If it's only relevant for a grade level, then they would have a conversation at the grade level. If it's relevant for just one other colleague, they'd have a conversation with that person. I think the best example is when we go to Q, because we have a significant investment in when we send our teachers to Q, and we have in the last several years, that while we are at the conference, we meet every day together as a large group. So the night before the conference starts, we all meet together, we talk about what our focus is to learn and what we're going to look at. So you might have a different interest in you and so forth, but a part of that is also, it can be like drinking from a fire hose when you're at one of these conferences. And so if you haven't been, then it helps the teacher try to really think about what is it that what am I trying to get out of this, or you just spin like a top. And so then at the end of the day, we get back together and talk about what did we learn, and then how are you going to bring this back? And we do that at each day that we're there. And then we have a follow-up with, there was like a Google Doc and a follow-up of set expectations and how was it implemented back at the other sites? And if there was no representative from a school site, then how did we get that school site included in the conversation as well? So that's on a big scale, and then it also happens on a little scale.
As it relates to the board, do we need to add something to our handbook about sharing information from our main conference? Because it's not really an expectation. Some of us do it, but not all of us do it.
I think we usually do give it to you and you send it to us in the Friday report. So-
Especially if it was something.
Yeah,
If it's something really-
the best
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, and like David just sent me, he just got the PowerPoint from a session he went to, so he just forwarded that to Alex and I. And so I have it up to send out to you in the communication, so you all have it. Hey, David went to the session, here's some stuff that he learned, and you guys have all done that, where you've shared some pieces. So I think there's some things, because you did one, you had a security one, yeah, because you had one. And so I think some of that is, sharing it, because not all of it is stuff that you want to necessarily take back, but.
I know I enjoy and appreciate getting the CalCit information every time you
Yeah.
go to that meeting. I really
Yeah.
look forward to that information.
Right.
I'm thinking of one of the classes I went to, they had, it was a high school, and they had a cooking chef class similar to like our jar.
Mhm.
But what they added on to it was an element where they grew a lot of their vegetables and spices and stuff that they used in the cooking process.
Mhm.
And they took our jar concept and extended it to teach kids about agriculture, about growing, how best plants grow, and what you need to do to optimize production and things like this. So they took our jar concept but added another element to it.
Mhm.
And I thought, gee, that's a great idea. We should do that at Rolling High, at the other jar.
I mean, and that's kind of the danger in it, that we hear, because that's another class, so what class do we eliminate in order to have that?
Yeah, I know,
class?
I thought that
Which
was
is
good.
great, we could have a horticulture class, what are we gonna take off to have a horticulture class? That is good, yeah.
You come up with the ideas, you.
Okay. Okay. Just remember that when the budget comes around, that class size is a 10. Which is good. Anything else?
Okay, but going back to the original item was, how do we monitor?
Mhm.
You're saying that Brandy and Ocean and.
We
and
monitor,
monitor.
yeah, so we have just updated that, I've
Yeah.
gone through this in October, how we monitor it on a quarterly basis.
So those that scored it lower than, maybe it was a misunderstanding, or you didn't know that was in place?
No, you wouldn't have known. Well, and I think this was Donna's question, well, is it that the board monitors it, or because
Yeah.
the board doesn't really
Yeah.
monitor it, it's the board expects staff to
Right.
monitor it.
I don't think it's a good question. We
Right.
should have put slash staff.
Yeah.
Staff,
something.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
the clarification is that the board doesn't monitor it, that we do have people monitoring it, and making the board aware of when changes need to be done or updated. And the other one was, board gives direction to superintendent only at board meetings.
I think that wasn't written right either,
I
because
agree.
we have a community member asking me a question that I don't know. I always write you and say, could you please address this? And then you go ahead and take care of it and let me know. So that's why I voted that, I graded that one down, because I don't think that's right. That's not the only time that we ask you to do something and give you direction.
I agree 110%.
Probably the purpose of it is to get away from just comments and Julie, will you do this? The rest of the board members aren't able to. And us asking staff to do certain things that you're not
Right.
doing.
But I think that even when, speaking for myself, but I know I've had communications where it said, conversation with Donna, blah, 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 blah. Even when things happen, I think that if I call Julie, like just recently, this past week, there's something came up and I talked to Julie about it, and immediately she's like, I'll make the rest of the board aware of it. So I think that even when we call and say, hey, you know, this is a problem or an issue or a concern, can you make sure you look into this or follow up on this or whatever, that she still lets the rest of the board know about it. But sometimes, I may be the only one who was told. So I have to call a different direction. That's the bad part about having 5 bosses.
But I think for me, that's just the nature of it, because our last board meeting was December 12th, something. And then, so today's the 14th, right? So a month. There's things that have happened that you guys had to say, hey, heads up, what about this, or what about this, or whatnot. So some of those things, I interpreted this, and I didn't take this, but I interpreted this question about direction around big things, not like a heads up. So maybe there's a difference in opinion of how you thought of it. So, because if it was like, well, no, you just had an interaction in the grocery store, so you call to let me know, and I'll let the rest of the board know. Here's the answer to your question, but the board should know this as a whole, so I communicate that out. You same thing, you had an interaction, and so, all right, let me do it, and then I can let the whole board know. An interaction, and particularly if it's a situation where there's confusion in the community, or there's a question, or whatever, I take that as that's kind of our daily work versus direction. And like when you called, you didn't direct me. You just said, hey, do you know about this situation? What's happening? What do we do? And I said, well, we need to let everybody know.
But I look at it as she's directing you to, can you please look into it?
Okay.
That's a direction.
Okay.
I don't know,
Okay.
that's how I look at it. I'm
Yeah,
asking you
perfect.
to-
Yeah, that's true.
But I do see it as 2 different levels. Like, when I wanted universal breakfast, I wouldn't ask, Julie to implement that without going to the board first. I mean, that's a big thing.
Right. Well, you had an
with
idea.
The solar one.
Yeah, you had an idea this week or last week that was a big idea.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Right.
gave you an answer of things that you need to think about.
Mhm.
But that, I could have very easily, that was a direction, Julie, why don't we do this? And so I gave you a response to it, and if this is something that you want, then we have to bring it up to the whole board, because that's a big thing.
Right.
That wasn't a little thing.
Yeah, so those items, I think, is what this is addressing.
Oh,
The solar, having solar in the district. Those are big issues that should be brought up at a board. Whereas day-to-day operations, that can be handled informally. I know every time I go out to a school site or something, the other month, I guess we had an outside contractor do some handicap painting of curbs, but they didn't do it right, and I almost fell, somebody else almost fell, and I contacted Alex and you, and within 24 hours it was fixed. I wasn't gonna wait for a board meeting to bring it up. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it was fixed within
See,
24
that's
hours.
different direction. That's why I said it can't be done just at the board meeting.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah, I think it's up to you if you interpret that as a direction from the board member. And I think you need to ask the board member to put it in writing and share with it.
See, to me, I look at direction as, for instance, sometimes a comment will be made,
Uh-huh.
and I'll say, Dr. Mitchell, would you direct staff
Yes.
to get back to you, to talk to
Right.
that person or get
Yes.
the information.
Yes.
Does that get down to how things get onto the agenda then? Because like if,
But go ahead, you're right.
like if Donna has an idea of changing the function of a school, would she, have you put that onto the agenda?
I would ask you if you could put it on the agenda, then you guys would talk about it, decide, right?
Do that like?
Yeah, so, well, and part of it, so, big idea, I respond back, here's some things. If that's still an interest, then it needs to come up to go on the board agenda. Is this something we want to consider?
Or you might want to share with the
In a-
board,
in a commu-
a written communication
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
to see the interest, right?
Right.
The years I've been on the board, I'm trying to think of how many times that's occurred.
How many? A lot.
Really? I'm trying to think of them.
A lot.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
But sometimes, like Julie said, we might have an idea or, have had a conversation with some staff and, think, oh yeah, that's great. Then when we run it by her, like she said, she'll send, things to think about, and then it's like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Look good on paper, but not so much now.
It sounded good while we were all sitting there, talking about it.
Sometimes we don't think about the good things.
But yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, she looks for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, but Carrie had a suggestion about writing it down or submitting it to you. Is that something that we want to consider? A suggestion or?
I don't, just because sometimes I'm in my car or she's in her car and I just need to tell her before I forget and I just call her and say,
She
hey.
can put it on her ongoing list.
Yeah.
somehow.
On the tracker?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
tracker.
Important
We can
to
ask
share.
A
her
lot of
to put
times
it
you
on the
guys put
tracker.
emails to me, and then I just add that email to the tracker, then you guys also see the tracker. Those are
Right.
things we're working on, that are different than our 6 goals.
Exactly. Because like when I had a conversation with her this last week, I was at a conference when I was getting, thinking about it and like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell Julie about this. And so I'm talking to her while I'm driving and getting lost and.
No, the tracker has been very helpful.
Yeah, glad we brought that back.
I also think the responses that are questions that you give us, that was one of them, that we all have all the same information is outstanding.
Oh, before the board meeting?
Yeah,
That, a big help,
yeah.
huge help.
I'm glad we resolved that last year.
Yeah.
That was good. I'm glad we got that clarification.
Okay, so the 2 items, the monitoring and the
The direction.
direction to the superintendent, is there anything we want to change or do on that? Or just continue as we're doing and assume that that was scored a little bit lower because of the way the question was worded?
I think that was it.
Okay, you're satisfied with that? Okay, the next one is the board demonstrates
Commitment.
Commitment
To
to-
district priorities and goals.
No, I take that away. I take that back. I put that as a 0. I think that was wrong. Because we go over them once a year. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't thinking in that context. I was thinking more in the, our policies, and, that type of goals.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
our bylaws. And
Uh-huh.
I was thinking of the wrong thing, so that was my mistake.
So there is, that one, Lynn, is the second one on that list. The board
Yeah.
reviews governance agreements regularly, so we have our governance handbook, that is this meeting.
Yes.
So this meeting annually takes place for us to really have the conversation that you guys are having this morning. So I guess then define regularly, is annually, regularly, or not?
I know when we tightened up the goals and expectations,
Yeah.
we added measurability to
Mhm.
several of them.
Right.
And that's, I don't know that we said how often we're gonna measure them, but today we're having a semi-annual.
Right, well, you asked for that last year, was to do a
That's
mid-year
good.
report. And so, and we have a stopgap measure, if we don't have time for it today, it will come next week, we'll have it, to be able to put a mid-year piece in there. Because and we do analyze in terms of the district priorities and goals. So we have 6 district priorities, and then we have focus areas amongst each of those, which are our goals. And that is that's what staff monitors. I mean, that's the work that we do. And we go back and measure against it. Every year we change them slightly, and the board adopts those every year. Generally adopting those in June, because that sets the direction for the next school year.
And that's what you have here.
Uh-huh, yes,
On our red folder.
yes.
And we need to look at this more often. I need to look at this more often.
They're every day, yeah.
Is it right here?
So academic achievement for all students, college and career readiness, communication, collaboration, student, staff, wellness.
The only thing is, my
Fiscal.
thing here says district strategies for 2008 to 2013.
Oh, that's not the right one then. I wouldn't look at that one. Let me see what mine says. You need a new folder, David. Let's see. Oh, that's no bueno. Oh, that's a different one, because that's the norms and the protocols. Yeah, that's the wrong one in the folder.
So maybe
We have different red, we have
Yeah.
multiple red folders.
So maybe we need to update our
Update our
folders.
folders. I didn't make a note of that.
One of the other blue ones, I don't think we have listed as 55. I think you do a pretty good job of getting information to us about educational issues.
Uh-huh.
Talking about laws, I think about laws and
Right.
legislation and that kind of stuff. But I don't think we do a really good job about getting those out.
Okay.
It's not a concentrated effort to do.
Yeah.
And that's something we should be doing. Well, we all need to get out of it.
And I think too, I would then like to find an educational issue, because when you do report at our HCCC, those are our educational issues. When you go to city councils, you're having those conversations. Uh-huh.
About our educational issues.
Right. But are we talking state issues? Because we don't do state issues, we don't do federal issues, but we do local.
But maybe we should think about when issues come up before the legislation.
Right.
State, if they're going to affect our schools,
Right.
we let the community know ahead of time, because they're getting involved in writing
Right.
their people.
Right.
You know, might help with our issues.
Right, and some of that, I think we can do a better job or a different job on that. Some of it is we don't always have consensus. It's our individual voter right for things, like for things that are going to be on the ballot. So if our board has consensus, this is something we're going to support, and we've taken resolutions, but there are others that your personal opinion may differ from that of the opinion of the board.
But maybe, and then you should come to the board and say, this is coming up in legislation, you know, we'd like to take a stand on it, but then find out from the board.
Okay.
But I think it was good, because when the health thing came up, the new law and all that, oh my gosh, everyone is in uproar, so we had a whole bunch of meetings. We notified the community exactly what we're going to do, and that was exactly what we were saying, that we should do that if something major comes up like that, and we did it.
I know like our neighboring school district, they passed resolutions quite often supporting different amendments that are coming up or legislation. We very seldom do that now. I don't know if that's something we want to do or not do. To be involved politically in that.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you can, if it benefits all students, and you really feel
Yeah.
it's a good thing, but a lot of them are not, because we would agree.
I think one time we supported Malkin or something.
We did.
And I even had to ask Julie, like, isn't this political? Like, why are we?
Yeah.
I was very uncomfortable, but then I understood that it's something.
Yeah, we do it much more rarely than some
Yeah.
other districts do, and I think some of it is, if that's something you want me to do more of, is to bring political items to you, I can do that. That hasn't been our pattern or our habit, so I haven't done that. I mean, you're aware of them, I make you aware this is a bill coming down the pike, or this is what's happening, but not from a resolution.
I think only the benefits or concerns were one should
Yeah,
be.
if you're concerned about it,
Yes.
how it's going to affect our school district,
Right.
our students,
Right.
you need to bring it to us.
Yeah,
I know
you guys hear those.
I came to you with that sex education stuff early, because I was concerned and I could see it coming.
Right,
So that kind of issue, I think, is very important.
Right.
Now, the next one coming up is going to be, people have heard about the split roll, Prop 13 for business. They're not going to call it split roll, we're going to call it money for education, and everybody's going to vote for it. So
Right.
be
Right.
sure to read it, it's going to be like the gas.
right. Yeah.
I think there was one question about educating the community, about education to the community.
I think that's what she's talking
Yeah, I
about.
think
That
so.
is the one,
Educational issues.
That's what she said. We didn't put it up on our chart, but that's the one.
55.
Yeah.
So when
55.
some of these things come up, legislation comes up, make us aware of it, but
is that something that we might want Gina to make the community aware of?
Not unless we've taken a statement on the board.
Yeah,
Well, not
I-
necessarily take a stance, but just make them aware that this is coming up, because
I
they're the
think
ones that are gonna be voting.
When there are things that are, like, that you guys have said that directly impact, and we take a resolution and a position on, maybe it has to be advertised, but other than that, we all have our individual voting rights, so we have not been outwardly political this
Yeah.
year. If we want to change that, then we can look at that, but we have enough work to do.
I don't think outwardly it's political, but if there's really an
Yeah.
issue every now and then,
Yes,
it's gonna
yes,
happen.
and there's been about three.
Yeah,
And-
there's
Yeah,
been a lot.
yes, yeah, I agree with that. And we have taken some resolutions.
Or if community members come to us with some,
Yep,
we need to know about it.
yes, yeah, yes. Indeed.
Ready for the next one, David?
Yeah. What's that?
Board meeting.
Oh, board meetings discuss.
Members.
Board members discuss questions prior to meeting.
Yeah, that's, like I said earlier, when we send you questions,
Uh-huh.
and now you send them out to everybody,
Uh-huh.
to me, that's solved that issue.
I still think there's a lot of
Really?
questions being said that I'm thinking, why didn't they ask that ahead of time? We're spending a lot of time on this, and you could have gotten clarification way ahead of time. That's why
I know personally, I don't think the community realizes how much time we spend before working. They think it's
Yes.
walking.
Oh, you guys spend so much time.
Or
We don't.
the
But-
other side of that is the question was asked beforehand, the answer was given to that individual beforehand, but then they come into the meeting and still bring it up again, and then we have to spend another 15 minutes to let them hear the same
Yeah.
thing that they already heard, him or her, so the same thing that they already heard, which takes away time. Then we're rushing on some other things that we could have spent more time on. That's my perspective.
Yeah, but, in regards to that, I've actually mentioned this to Dr. Mitchell. Sometimes she'll give me an answer, and I'll say, well, I'm going to bring it up at the board meeting when we discuss this item, because the community's not aware that I asked that question. And sometimes I think it's important that the community be aware that these questions were asked.
I think for me,
Just
it's
certain.
not as much as during the official board meeting as during closed session. I think a lot of time in closed session is wasted on redundancy.
Closed
Because
session.
one of us have already gotten our answer, but then it's brought up again, and then we have to hear the whole scenario again, and then 15, 20 minutes later, just when that person already had the answer. So I think that we can't assume that just because we had a question about it, that everybody had a question about it. So we spend a lot of time on something for one individual, maybe two. Just my thought, just because, you guys know how I am about the meeting, because when it makes it long, and then we have to go back to closed session again because we didn't get through the other items on the agenda. Meanwhile, Julie, Alex, Maddie, Dennis, they've all been here since, 7 o'clock in the morning. I've been at work or whatever since 7 o'clock in the morning. Many of you have been at your things, and then here we are, 11 o'clock at night, still just going over something because we spent 20 extra minutes on something that maybe was already talked about.
What happens if you don't agree with the answer you got?
You can have one-on-one with Julie. You
Yeah,
have
but
the
then
right to have a
I still don't
one-on-one.
agree. Then I want to bring it up at that meeting, so the others will, to see if the others agree or disagree.
So that's a topic, what I would suggest then, that is something where if you have an opinion on the way something, because you have the what, right, and I did the how.
Right.
But you think the how should have been done differently, and then we have a difference of opinion.
Uh-huh.
And that's then giving direction to the superintendent. So you want me to change how we've done something,
Mhm.
then that would be, hey, can I put this on the board agenda? And then this item's gonna be discussed on the agenda, and then that is a topic, is the way I would see that. Because if you want, a different, something done differently, and we have because I can't take direction from just one person to change how something's been done. But the board can say, as a consensus, we want this to be done differently in the future. So like, for instance, you know, the way we're gonna update policies, if you didn't like the idea of quarterly, because that's my how, if you didn't like that idea, then you guys would collectively give direction to how we're gonna do it differently. But if you wanted me to update it monthly, we'd have to get some consensus to do it differently.
And like
Does that
our-
make sense?
Yeah,
Is that what we're
makes
talking
sense.
about? Are we
Yeah.
talking about the same thing?
Yeah.
You gotta get your friends to lobby.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, like the one that always gets me is the blue folder, because we've all read it, we've all had the opportunity to ask questions about it and get additional information, but then it seems like we always spend 20 minutes on it just to say, well, you know, on page 3 it says that the student this or this happened, or you know that, and it's, I think most of us are just like, okay, we read it, why are we talking about this again? If there was a specific question for Dr. Mitchell or for the site, then that could have been dealt with beforehand instead of spending 20 minutes on it.
Or even in front of the group, you could say, I was given this information on this topic, on this student or whatever, and I don't agree with it. You could, does anybody else have a different opinion? Something like that stops us going all over the whole thing again. So,
I just think we need to look at how to use the time more effectively and efficiently so that people stay focused and clear-headed and we're not here till midnight.
there has been a change in the information we're being given, though. I think it is more
Yeah, it
email than
is,
it
Oh,
used to
yeah,
be.
it is.
Absolutely,
And so,
yeah.
some of
Could we
it is
limit our
not on
comments,
that.
like just for a minute or two on the blue folder? Because we have a chance to ask you all those questions, which I do ask you a million
Yeah.
questions. And I think that maybe as a board, we could limit our time then, asking questions, comment, actually.
And it's not to discourage the asking of questions, it's just to say, okay, this is something personal that I have a question about, so I'm gonna go to Dr. Mitchell. We can't always assume that everybody had the same question or everybody wants to hear the same response. Just to manage our time more efficiently and effectively so that, the other items on the agenda, we're not rushing through them then. We're having enough time without staying till midnight.
Or you could.
It's up from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. to midnight.
Yeah, we're at midnight now.
Again, to avoid going the minutia of
Right,
a question.
exactly.
Maybe the thing to do, if you still need more information over what you've got in the document, you could say, could you point out these things, the board meetings with the other members or whatever? Just, and then that way, we all go get into it. Does that make sense? Say one of the board members really questioned this or that and didn't agree with the answer, but here's the conclusion and what we decided.
Or, because maybe it's not a conclusion, maybe I think it's concluded, but you don't think it's concluded because you have a difference of
Or you
opinion.
say,
So then maybe you would say, I asked Julie the question, the answer was X, I think it should have been Y. Anybody want to discuss that? Which is very black and white.
Exactly.
And I don't know,
The part that I'm getting hung up on is that most of those discussions in the blue folder deals with behavior, some type of
Mhm.
behavior. And then I see these teachers getting up and speaking about safety issues, concerns about safety issues. And I try to look at those individual cases where, to a certain degree, I see as a failure in meeting that student's needs. And the teacher's coming up saying, it's too dangerous for me to teach in my class. And what can we learn from this situation, this student, that might be able to help the teacher not be so concerned about safety in her classroom?
So that would be a good comment to Julie.
Yeah, to have a one-on-one with her,
Yeah.
and maybe she could ask Maddie to come in,
yeah.
or
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah.
Because I think even Donna said it's where she says, yeah, the grades are so bad, the grades keep going down, Why didn't we do something earlier? And if we would have done something earlier, maybe that teachers wouldn't be fearful of that student, and that student would perform better.
A lot of times it's there.
Yeah.
And that's why we've tried to provide more and more information that you have. I mean, because part of it, it's always entertaining to me, because, we're inundated with information. By the way, can you answer this, and this? But so I try, because there's 5 individuals that have 5 different ways that they look at data, or look at information, or look at content. But we do look through those cases and say, okay, what's the lesson learned? And like, you'll see some situations where we might have a student with special needs, and there's something that's been brought to our attention, and so, okay, there's always a piece in there, lesson learned, like what are we doing to correct so it doesn't repeat itself? But there are things that we are doing. So we do have, 13,000 students, and so what are we doing to address those individual student needs? But there are some things that we're not raising them, and so there are some things that we have a lot of ability, we have a lot of services, we have a lot of things that we can do, a lot of support we can provide, and sometimes it doesn't work, which is hard. It's hard.
And sometimes kids refuse, the parents won't let them, even though they often let them. So that's the hard one.
So we do try to find, these are the steps that we've taken, but we did realize that this had happened, so the steps that we've taken, we saw that grades were dipping, or we saw that, students sleeping in class, or whatever, so here are some of the steps that we tried to
And
take.
it's nice to see the interventions, because that tells, like Maddie says, it, she told Kevin to tell us a story with the
Right,
facts.
right.
And you can see it better, and so, that's why I have less questions, because it's like, are they?
We have students that come from horrendous homes, and the district can't be everything to every student, 24 hours a day.
No, but I'm thinking back, and I think Donna made a suggestion a long time ago about having counselors at the elementary school level. And I really feel that that's important, and it can help resolve some behavioral issues. Because like you said, it's the home environment that's going to make a difference. And if we have somebody that can deal
Right.
with the home environment, it won't fall on the teacher to correct the behavior, but the counselor working with the parents. But,
How are we doing timers, David?
yeah.
You okay?
11:30 was supposed to end this.
But 11, I think, in the topic on that.
Was it 11?
No, 11:30.
11:30. Is there any other blue item up there that we want
With
to
the
discuss?
check mark, the bottom one.
The bottom one, yeah.
A good relationship and amount of time. So what that says, which is not legible, good relationship in the amount of time spent on an item and the importance of the item. Excuse me.
So sometimes we spend too long on one item.
What is
It's
good
not that
relationship?
important.
So that it's a really important item, we spend a lot of time. It's a lesser important item, we spend a little time. Sometimes there's a lesser important item and we spend a whole bunch of time, or it goes this way.
Relationship of the time.
The correlation between time and importance.
I think all of us at some point or another are guilty of, starting it with the, well, you know what, I this and I that, and I. And I think we just need to curtail some of that and maybe just focus on what the issue is at hand and just say, okay, with this item in regards to this situation, this is what I think. And kind of leave some of the other extras out of it. And I think we're all guilty of that on certain things because we're all have passion about certain things in particular. I mean, we're passionate about the whole district, but there's certain things that'll come up that one of us may be more passionate about than the other.
Yes.
So I think that if we just remember, that we can convey our thoughts briefly and quickly and still be thorough. Yeah.
I think sometimes too, looking at that the importance of something sometimes is personal.
Yes.
And that, but if we look at importance based on what's in green, like the board is focused on achievement for all students and some of the things that you've said that are there, it's not maybe not about the bike trail or about the color of the lunchbox, so I didn't even think that. I mean, I'm just thinking of small. In the moment, though, that's important, and it's important to a particular person on a topic, but. It's in your red.
It was in the red
At the
folder.
back, the last thing.
See, Donna,
But it looks like this.
I was telling Julie during break, we did a good job, that's pretty timely, even though I couldn't find too many offensive little typos, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Do y'all want to take a bathroom break and a
Yes.
break?
Take 5.
Take 5.
All right.
Are we taking 5, David?
Yes.
All right. Angela, can you grab that
Oh,
box?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So we took a recess at 12 noon. I'll put that in our notes.
I forgot it was gonna be there. But you see, I text you after I remember when you didn't answer.
Angelina.
So, I'm not quite sure which ones are right by Uncle Riley's house. Because they're like almost all along Whitestone Boulevard. That one's too expensive. So good to see you.
Happy New Year.
Okay, sorry, Ma. No, I was just on break from a meeting. And I know I wouldn't get home until late tonight, so I wanted to call you now.
Just to mention.
Yeah, sure, anytime.
That one was expensive. The by the park with the zoo? Why don't you call Alicia and ask her which one it is? I'm sure she knows, Mom. There's no place for you and brother to stay there. I know, so just call and ask her. Because what is the one where Calvin took care of us at? Oh, okay. Well, you can go to McDonald's for breakfast.
Your office, hey, do you want to go? It's so good to see you. Happy New Year. So do you want to still go over there, or how was it?
I would love to, yeah.
Okay, when are you free? Anytime
So
after?
I'm back in town now.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll do one more search and see if there's anything in us, but then you're starting to like all the road motel.
Okay.
Hey, man.
Okay, are we going till February?
They're not gonna put the bad picture on the Motel 6, they'll look bad on the picture either.
Can you try it? How did it-
Yeah, love it.
Really, it worked? Oh, wow, yay. That's good. Oh, no, but that's good.
I can't remember the one that we stayed at when we went
Okay, so
for,
it's like-
no, the one where,
Okay.
that we stayed at when we went for, I think it was for Aunt Teresa's mother. Huh?
Did I?
No, it was just me and you, because we were there in December. It was cold.
What about
That's why I'm thinking that,
the parent involvement academy? I know you took.
oh yeah, because it was around Christmas, that's right, it was before Christmas. Oh, well, okay, well, I gotta, yeah, I gotta go. I'll look at the one more time before you see them talking.
Going as well as Donna?
Yeah. Okay. All right, love you. Bye.
Breakfast items?
Governance team workshop. And the next item under that agenda item is the review of the governance handbook. As we discussed earlier in some of the other subjects, that there's been a lot of different policy changes, legislation, et cetera. And reviewing the handbook, does anybody have any edits they would like to propose for the handbook?
I just want to thank,
It's in, Lynn, it's the same as this one.
I just want to thank Lynn and Donna for their hard work on this. I mean, that was a lot of time and effort on both your parts. Thank
Start
you.
from scratch, so the updates will be pretty easy.
Yeah, but thank you guys.
Do we have any amendments? Do you want to add anything, change anything, that you had a chance to review it?
I just have some little punctuation.
Okay, so content-wise, anything
Yeah.
content? One of the little minor thing was just in light of some of just what we know now, like on page 7 of the actual handbook, which shows up, I think it will also be page 7 of here. Yes, it is page 7, under roles and responsibilities. The things that David and I spoke about were all very small things, like under that very first opening paragraph of roles and responsibilities, the last sentence says, the role of the school board is to govern the school district. And then part of a conversation we had was in its entirety. So not a small portion of it, but a large portion of it. So we were looking at it through the lens of if we're elected by trustee
Yeah.
area.
I think that's a good thing.
But it's not my handbook.
Well, no, I guess it's not a big deal.
No.
You have to look at it from a point of view of those who will follow us eventually to make sure they know.
So entire school district, is that what you want to say? Or as a whole?
All, in our conversation, just said, govern the school district in its entirety. I do agree with you, Lynn, a school district is a school district. It was redundant, but was that something you guys wanted?
Well, some of that terminology is that we're changing the district into districts. We're
Right.
changing it into areas.
Right.
Voting areas. But, yeah, sounds good to me.
That was our thinking, that when you're elected by a district, your responsibility is for the school, the entire school district, not the district that you're elected to.
Then the other thing that, and David, you maybe have it written in your notes, I have it written on page 9, under act as community leaders by, and add a bullet that says representing the district community as a whole, larger than any given trustee area.
Yeah. That's probably one of the most important things when we change, because it will be certain people's perspective that they only need to worry about their area, not the whole district.
Is that something that is there consensus? Would the board like to see that?
I like it.
I like
You like it, Donna?
it.
You like it? You like it,
Thank you.
You like it? You like it, Mikey?
Are you okay, David?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Those are the only two that from our conversation that I had.
Do you think we need anything in there for the CVRA?
Those are the two we just added.
Yeah, but I mean, about the number of districts and things like this.
We might, I don't, we've already said it, the district as a whole.
Right.
Maybe add something as a reminder that, along those lines, that they're responsible for everything. And I think we can put too much into it.
Yeah, I think we did that.
we have it.
So we're gonna add those two things.
The two things that
Yeah.
Dr. Mitchell
Good.
mentioned, right?
Are you okay with that? Gary, are you okay?
Yes, I'm there.
Lynn? Angelina? David?
Yes. But my question is that, do you think those two items that we're adding addresses the civil rights voting adequately to the handbook? Those two items? Okay.
I have on page 15, I'm sorry, we have one more thing that I highlighted. Just at the top of the page, where it says issues regarding superintendent. That first bullet, where it says regarding the superintendent, the board member should meet with superintendent.
Yeah.
I think it should be the board member and board president.
Okay.
Shouldn't it?
Oh, which one?
The first bullet under the very top, issues regarding the superintendent. Oh, I'm sorry, I got this, the handbook.
It is still page 15. It's still the same page.
It's the very top thing.
The issues regarding the superintendent?
Just add.
It is the first bullet on page 15.
The board member and board president. Just what I suggested.
Donna, are you okay with that? Gary? Lynn? Angelina?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Any other changes? Are you still looking for ideas, David?
No, I'm just saying, based on what we discussed in closed session. On page 14 on the very bottom, it's consistent with what he was saying. That a board member is contacted by email by committee member. That's consistent to what he said. Any other suggestions, recommendations, changes, edits, punctuation?
The grammar piece, Lynn, I'll get from you.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last piece on that one is, so I have direction. The last piece of direction that I need, David, is that would the board like for me to put this on the January 23rd or a future meeting, since we have made three edits, and just reapprove it as our handbook?
Yes.
On which one, the 23rd meeting?
I could put it on the 23rd, I could put it in February. I mean, I'll have it's 3 easy changes to make, so I can put it on the 23rd.
Whichever's the shortest agenda.
Oh, stay that at the time.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what February's will be.
So then she'll add and amended or
Yeah.
updated.
Yep.
On the last page.
Yeah.
If you don't mind doing it in January, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, you can do it on the 23rd, go for it.
Okay. All right.
And then, I think what we should do is leave the affirmed on the 24th day of January 2019. Like Lynn said, just add
Amended.
that way somebody that looks at this will see that we're reviewing it.
And copy written.
And what did you say, Lynn?
You could say copyright on.
Oh, yeah, right. Royalties should be sent to.
You know.
Okay, so that covers item 5A. We're at 5B now. Oops, no.
No,
We're not really doing
we're
that.
still on our governance workshop. And so we have governance structures overall as a governance team. And so if
Let's follow this one.
so all of this is this.
Oh, okay, I thought it was down
So we're
Okay.
here in
Okay.
terms of
here. Okay.
those pieces. And
Okay, governance structure. The structure of our meetings, if there's any suggestions or ideas to have our meetings operate more smoothly. The agenda structure, any suggestions or changes or ideas on how the current agenda is structured. And then any suggestions on changes such as Friday letter, board packets, board presentations, study sessions, and board recognitions. So why don't we start with the structure of our meetings? Why don't we start with these items down here since these are very specific?
What's the number on the agenda?
that's still item one.
Yeah.
This is still our governance team
Yeah.
workshop.
Okay, let's first start with these items down here. Friday letters. Any suggestions on the Friday letters that we get every Friday?
I think they're great. The meeting you're in, because I mean, there's a lot of time that we put into writing and you put into reading them. So anything you want me to change? Anything to better meet your interests?
Just make sure you update us on any incidents or things like that.
Okay.
You've been doing that, but just
A reminder.
continue to.
I appreciate that when one of us brings something to your attention, then you share it with everybody, like the conversation you and I had last week. Share it immediately with the rest of the board.
Okay.
The safety department, and when we have the police department, they have a regular report.
Yes.
The safety department, you will have a regular report to us?
Yeah, we have information, but we don't have the same. Because they would put down every alarm call and so forth, so we don't track that same information any longer.
Only incident,
Yeah.
big incident.
Right. And that's handled by the schools.
I'd like to attend an active shooter drill, Mr. President.
And I think, yeah, I will tell you, we're doing them at every school site. But we also have one scheduled for here, for district office staff. So I'll give you some dates.
And maybe, along with that, include for the board anything we need to know as far as our role in something like that. Where do we go?
Okay. So I could tell you that part, if that's an incident at this point, you stay home. Yeah, no, I
You don't
don't,
want-
there'll be too much to happen. I will ultimately need the board president. And then I'll reach out because we'll need, because press will be here and so forth. But in the immediate, everyone's immediate reaction is let's rush to help. And at that particular moment, I'll need a little bit of time. And then when press starts to come, they'll want to see one of you in front of there. And so that would likely be the board president, and the board president's not available, the vice president, and then the clerk, and so forth. So somebody to take the podium and speak.
And then somebody will say, how do we get a hold of Carrie?
And if anything major happens on a campus, you usually let us know, but maybe right away, rather than not the daily work. I mean, if something happens that you think isn't that important, but we should be aware of it. To put it in the front of me.
Yeah, and part of it, I think I do, and there are things that, like, the incident that I just put in the Friday letter, that's the piece Angelina had called me about. I told her, but that's, I mean, those things are, there's,
They happen on a
they
regular
happen all the
basis.
time.
Yeah.
So there's something that happens between PTs or whatever. And there are times that I say something because this might be a big deal, and then it isn't. And there are things, this isn't a big deal, and it is. Like
That's the thing I'd rather have to hear about it before.
which I would rather tell you about it first, but there's a lot of judgment that goes into it, and I'm the first to admit, sometimes I think, oh, this isn't gonna be a big deal, and it is. You know, yesterday, we had a student that was under the influence and called the paramedics and they were transported. But that happens.
That happens a lot.
And so you would be surprised, like, that's all I would do, is be telling you. And so there are times, like, and I'll be the first to admit, hey, I didn't think this was gonna be big, and all of a sudden it was. And even, like, I don't, it's like, there are things I know that are gonna be big, like, you guys did that, and I try that communication a variety of different ways, so it depends if I'm driving to the site or what am I doing. But, and I'm very open to whatever that feedback is. Sometimes I think, this is an everyday occurrence. So to me, it's an everyday occurrence. But I don't know. So if there's particular, I
Yeah, for no other
just
reason,
miss the mark.
to let us know how bombarded you are with these kind
Oh,
of things.
yeah.
You could do one at the end of the day. You know,
Yeah,
like-
well, and sometimes I'll say it was a very busy day, and there were like 4, 5,
Yeah.
6 things that happened. But, I mean, there is something that happens every day. Every day, something happens. Yeah, so every day I would be sending a quick fax. And at some point you'd say, okay, this is the average, this is obviously what occurs.
Okay.
And if you haven't worked on a high school campus, you don't, yeah.
At the very end of the report where you put dates
Yes.
and events,
Mhm.
which are very helpful. But sometimes if you read the Dropbox,
Yeah.
where the individual schools put the
Uh-huh.
reports, there'll be things happening. Or on Facebook, I'll see something
Mhm.
posted that's not listed there.
Yep.
Do we have like a master calendar
Oh,
for the
right.
district?
No, we don't. I'm just gonna own that one. We have tried 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And if they don't tell me, I can't do it. That's been a desk that's been dedicated to do it. We've tried and tried and tried. We met with secretaries and they tell us all of this. And finally, we have resorted to them giving us calendar things. So I learn it when you learn it when they send it to us. But then there are still things. You sent me that thing about something happened on the exact same day, the exact same time as Showcase.
Yeah.
There was no facilities request, never heard of it, never knew it, didn't know anything about it until it came across on Facebook.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just like you have a cabinet person who's the leader of the teachers, do you have I know it's going to be cabinet, you the director in charge of all the secretaries?
No, the principal is in charge of the secretary, and then we're in charge of the principals. We do secretary meetings 4 times a year. We bring the secretaries together and do all secretary meetings. One of them this year was canceled, so this year will only be 3. We do it in the beginning of the year before school starts. We usually do it in the fall. The next one's coming either the end of January, beginning of February, and one towards the end of the year. And we do talk about that, and we talk about update us and so on and so forth. But I've yet to been, that is not
Because
successful.
those students, even when they get up to school, we can write 100 things down in school, you know,
Right.
other than.
Right.
Their calendar is pretty good when you go where we get our email for the district. If you click on it, it has a lot of events on it.
I'm not too sure exactly how it works, but I know for Kiwanis, they have a thing called Team Up. And all the key clubs enter in their activities on Team Up. So if you're looking for volunteering hours or
Yeah.
if you're scheduling something, you don't want to conflict with somebody else, you just go to Team Up and all of the key clubs are on that Team Up.
So we have a Google Calendar. It's a Google Master Calendar. But it requires, what happens is they have to put it on their own school calendar, and then they have to put it on the district master calendar.
They can't merge the two.
They don't merge.
Mm.
And then there's things that, like for them, well, they often, like, do we need to know about their second grade awards assembly? Like that isn't usually, they put it in their letter, but there's a lot of things that, like district events, there's school events have a calendar that looks as busy as ours. And so if we had 19 school calendars merged together, so I try to say, these are events, give me events that the board and I would likely attend, or you would like to have the board or I attend. And so that's how I get the information that I get. And then we have, this Friday, you'll get another sheet that's like 2 pages of dates through the spring, of things that we know about. So like there's Ready, Set, Rollin', and there's, you know, bigger kinds of things. But I mean, there's, we've done it, this year is the first time we've done this, and we've done it semester. Like we gave one to you in the fall, and we're trying one in the spring. So we're trying something new.
And then we get it, go, pretty much, I'm not gonna get all these.
Right, well, and then the expectation is you get to all of them, but that you're aware of all of them, as far in advance as we know that something's happening. So like LCAP meetings are still not on that, you know, some of those things that still are not on there, and there are things that come up afterwards, but I'm all like ears, like if I, but
There's no easy way.
I can't, I haven't been able to find it.
I look at-
It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult,
Well,
but,
the principal's meeting will be after I put it on the calendar, right?
Because I look at Twitter, and I'll see Donna at all these events, and I was like, how the heck did she find out about that?
I usually find it out on the monthly report that they do.
Okay, that's what you find out, the
Yeah.
Dropbox.
Some of the stuff.
Yeah, that's
The
right, I looked
principal's
at that.
letter.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, it has activities. for
Right.
the- Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how I find out about some, but some I look on my calendar and I go, oh, and then click on it.
Are they pretty good about putting upcoming events or just?
That's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they
They
do.
do only upcoming events.
I've just noticed that they.
At the bottom, that's the last thing on the principal's report, so you can just.
so they get a template. They have a template, and it's like what their accomplishments have been and what are their upcoming events. And so some of them put second grade awards assembly, student lunch, popcorn party, pizza outing, field trip to the zoo. You know, they
Yeah, like
put,
Jason and Oswald had pie in the face,
yeah.
you know, because it was a PTA one, and I went last year, and the principal and vice principal were, and the kids had so much fun, I just wanted to watch. So that's how I find out about that stuff. But it's nice that you limited it to 2 pages, because it
Yeah, I
used to
do
be
limit it to
forever.
two.
Like,
I do
oh
limit it to
my
2.
gosh.
If you limit it to 2 pages, yeah. They like that I limited it to 2 pages too.
I think they probably just thought that they needed to tell us everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just give them that template, so that they, yeah.
It's perfect.
Okay,
I
so,
think that you know whatever you want to know something. And you say, yeah, I'm going to this, it sounds good.
when we look at Donna's Twitter account, more often than not, somebody will post on there that they appreciated that board member attended that event.
All right,
So they really do appreciate us attending events.
they do.
I know at the Christmas program, Lauren Roller that we went to, with Brandon, he said, I want everybody to know, I don't think we've had one performance by our music department that at least one board member was not. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's great.
It's very
Yeah,
nice.
I've lost count of the number of consultants we've had coming in here that have said that our representation at events far exceeded anything he's ever seen in any other district.
I would agree.
I remember Angelina went to an away thing, sports thing or something you went to, and somebody said, you really got board members coming over?
You did something
We
with
went to a parade and it was somewhere far in LA.
And you went to something
To
at
see
Knott's Berry Farm.
Alvarado.
Oh, yeah, Alvarado was
Yeah.
from Humphreys.
That's what happened to see
Yeah, I went to
Alvarado
Knott's Berry
sing.
Farm and watched
Yeah.
that, yeah.
And people were like, that's weird.
It's nice to see the support, and they appreciate it, you can tell, they're very.
Did anybody go to London?
Oh darn, missed my plane.
I turned my expense thing, by the way.
Never was a kid.
Okay, so any other suggestions or comments on Friday letters?
No, I think they're good, Julie, thank you.
Yeah, very good.
I appreciate you clarifying some of the things that are in the consent calendar for us. Because at first I didn't think you were doing it, so now you are, so it's cutting down on your questions.
Yeah.
that we're asking you maybe.
It is, it is.
Friday letter before the board meeting, it's like Donna was saying, I split my screen on my computer, and I have her letter here, and I have the online agenda, the online agenda over here, and I just go back and forth. And that makes it nice. Okay, board packets. Any suggestions, recommendations, or anything
My favorite part is the magazines.
like that?
Because I love reading the articles. There's always some really good articles in some of those.
I don't know what we need to have, do we need to have a cafeteria thing that tells what's lunch at lunch? And it can be online or something.
I was wondering, well,
Like in the paper.
It is online. And I wonder too, something like all the personnel commission job postings.
yeah, why do we get that?
I like getting those.
That's why you get, that's why you get the menu, that's why you get the
Yeah, there they
personnel,
are.
that's why you get the magazines, that's why you get the.
Because sometimes you might know someone who's like would be a good fit
That's-
for a
yeah,
position,
that
and
would
you
be
could say,
great.
and otherwise I don't look at our job openings. So when I get those, I'm like, hey, I know the perfect person for this. Hey, you should apply. You know.
That's good.
Or I share them with my students because
Mhm.
we work with a lot of dislocated workers.
Maybe one good link at the back of our business cards that says where to look for jobs. So people could easily go to it.
That's true, where do they? Somebody
On
asked
the
me about
website.
it.
On the website.
At
On the
Joint.
website, no, on
No,
our
it's on
website.
our
But I
website.
have a place.
I had to look for it.
They're on
a little bit.
EdJoin, but they're on the website as well.
Oh, okay,
I
good, I'll
it
tell
wasn't
them.
super easy to find. I had to look.
Well, there's a button on the front of the on the like on the fold, there's 4 buttons. One is work for Roland.
On the very front.
That's
Sign
fine.
up to Roland Schools?
Yeah,
I think I went to.
so,
I never saw
I
that.
think I went clear across the top.
Yeah, just a side thing, Julie mentioned the button, that
I'm gonna see if I,
one of the
we're gonna
legislation, one
change
of
it,
the law
or it's gonna
changes
change.
for this year
It's right
is
here.
that on the home page of the school district, you have to have one button that takes you to the agenda for the board meeting.
Oh,
It can't take you to another link that then
And
takes you
that's
to the
the
agenda.
Okay.
So it has to go directly from that button to the agenda.
Where is those?
It's a new law, new law.
Yeah,
Effective when?
last year.
Yeah.
So it's on there. So here's our webpage, which you can't see, but this big green button right there is our YouTube job opening. And then this little gavel is that link that David's talking about.
Well, I'm gonna look at my work
Has
one
that
and
been on
see.
there
That's
all
good.
along?
That's the thing,
Yeah, you're supposed to have a
directly
direct
Just
button.
get updated?
What
Yeah,
does?
Was that the web page, did it just get updated, or no, it's always been like that? I never noticed those 4 boxes up there when I went
Yeah,
on there.
now that one is gonna change. We're gonna probably pull that down temporarily to put some updates, other updates that are happening in the district.
Okay.
So that button, because you only get more than 4 buttons across and it's hard to see, but like right now we have enrollment, registration stuff. But that button's been there for a long time.
Okay,
So it
for
is the direct link.
board packets, do we keep the job announcements?
Yes, please.
Consensus, everybody agree, we'll keep them? Okay.
You might know somebody.
The menu?
I don't know.
It's what I like.
If you want to do it, it's okay.
Well, it's not just looking to see what the kids are having, but they'll have a CrossFit puzzle on there.
Oh, my goodness.
They'll have a quiz for the kids.
I know.
And so it's
They
very
should have been
informative.
out for 36 years.
It's very informative what's on
We
there.
talked always about
To
Santa.
make David happy, we keep the menu.
We talked about Santa. Never mind, that has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Okay. Board presentations, what do we?
Just any update, anything you want. This is your
Well-
your meetings are for you. So do you want to change this, like, do you want to change any structure with the agenda? How the agenda is printed, or how the agenda is presented, or how that information, now recognizing as well that CSBA is transitioning away from Agenda Online to Gamet's Meeting Manager. It will visually change. It's going to change. And so we'll help you when that happens.
Do you know when it's coming?
Yeah, we keep delaying it. To hopefully have it transition at the start of the year rather than midstream, but they're not gonna support Agenda Online. Actually, they're gonna take it off.
So let's leave it the way it is until they change.
But if there's anything, like the way we structure, like how we word things, like every meeting, we meet every Friday. Well, we meet 2 weeks before the board meeting, where we're looking at the agenda. And like we restructure how we word things. So like just this last meeting, we talked about how we put dates in, so that there's consistency with dates. So it's something we spend a lot of time looking at. But, so this is, in terms of a governance workshop for you guys today, is the meeting agenda, are the presentations, and are the study sessions meeting the needs of the board for their governance work?
What I would like to see when we get to agenda online, when we get to the calendar for the month, I would like to have any board meetings or study sessions that month to be written on the date we're having it. I know it, not with a link, but just knowing ahead of time at a glance the date and month.
So tell me where you want that?
When you go into, when you sign in to Agenda Online and it takes you to the page of the calendar,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you just click a link to take you to the agenda.
Yeah.
That calendar, I would like you to have more than
I can't do that.
one date, not
Yeah.
with links, because I know you don't have stuff up, just the dates written.
Right, it doesn't, the only time it populates on that calendar is when the agenda is published. So it's the way the program is written, so I don't put anything on that calendar, but as soon as the agenda is published, it fills in the box on the calendar for the day of the agenda,
But have
of
the
the day of
date,
that meeting.
what are you talking about? Have the date that you click on?
And she wants it in advance.
So like if we're having a study
Oh.
session in 2 weeks, or
Oh.
like we changed the date,
Yeah.
it'd be nice just to see it at glance.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only time that that populates is once the board agenda is published.
Could we suggest for the gamut that they'd be able to do that? Or do you think?
Well,
it's
they
gonna
would
be
say you
similar?
need to have your own governance calendar, which we have.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I can add, but that's how we also know when something's published and not published. But that, you know, because it's the month of January. So the only thing you see now is this meeting. You don't see any other meeting in the month of January because those agendas, although they're already written in draft form, they haven't been published.
The before published information, not public information yet,
Right,
so it's not okay to release.
right. But she just wanted it to be
I
on,
just wanna see
she
the
just
date.
wanted to see it on the calendar.
No.
No, I don't know, I,
Never mind.
that was a good idea though.
Board presentations, and I have one. Dr. Huff, love his presentations, but I would like an executive summary, no more than 1 page, for presentations that are 60 or 70 slides.
So we have done executive summaries, you've asked for that a couple of years ago, we've
Yes.
done an executive summary ever since.
Really? I haven't seen it.
In the information we give you, there's an not a slide, there's not a slide, you
Right.
get,
It's not
but
the
the,
PowerPoint.
but there's an executive summary of what we're gonna say. That's usually the first page.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
So like when we're having data stuff, there's a piece that's executive summary, and then there's 14 pages of data that follow it. So if that's not what you're interested, if what I interpreted your interest to be isn't being met, then I need to
Okay,
know,
I'll
because
take a
we
look
need to
at
do it
it.
again.
Because I don't remember seeing it in all the things.
And maybe we miss them, maybe we miss them, because usually when there's a PowerPoint of that magnitude,
Yeah.
there's a book of data that goes with it, right? And so the PowerPoint is pictures to tell the story with the data already told.
Right, right.
And and so we've given you, there's an executive summary in that.
I'll take a look.
Okay, and we'll change it if we're not meeting the interest.
Sorry, Barb, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, take that away, Angelina.
Linda's telling me. I know, pass it down.
Put it on the table.
So she gave you this already.
Man, I'm trying to kill you. Right over there too.
Well, Lynn, I didn't know what Lynn was
told them.
She did. She just did. She looked at Angela and slapped her hand.
Any other board presentation issues?
No, I just want to say that I think that all the board presentations that we have are very relevant. I think that we do a good job when we talk as a group and we kind of say what we want to have, like our study session presentations on, what we've asked for has been delivered. So I appreciate that. I think that years prior, it was kind of a check the box thing, like let's just have somebody can talk just to say we did. But the ones that we did are actually informative. That's appreciated because it makes our time.
I like Maddie's report. She listened to report on the-
I have to say Alex does a great job. putting something very complicated into my language.
And you can tell we spent a lot of time
Yeah.
on it.
Staff as a whole, we spend, and we, it's fine, we all rehearse it, like you guys, there's things you don't say, because it's hard to get in front, you know, on a podium if you're not used to public speaking. And when Ed Services team comes in, then everybody knows their part, and so we.
And
it's
Alex
good.
has gotten much better, because
So
I remember
good.
when he first started, he
nervous.
hated doing those. You could just tell it was not his comfort zone.
I know, he was so nervous.
But now he just kind of breezes through them.
Yeah.
So they're organized too.
Okay.
Like this team is working, okay, now we're changing shifts, now the next one, we are.
Study sessions,
Yeah.
basically the
Do we have
same.
a schedule of what's coming up?
Yes, we do. The study session schedule, I haven't given it to you in a while, I gave it to you for the year in the fall. Most of the study sessions coming up now are all LCAP related. They're all data, mid-year report, it's that time. So that is February and March.
I know that was writing letters, could you give us a report on where we stand as a district regarding security? Are we considered in the last one, but are we lacking stuff, or, you know, that kind of stuff?
Yep.
Based on what you have,
And then
what your
we-
conversation with, help my road coaches did, as far as
Yeah.
what you've been communication.
That was on data security. So LACO was data security. Law enforcement has been other security. Both?
I like, yeah.
So data security was this last Friday. There was a piece on data security. Drafted them in February and approves them in March and April. Does that work? I know.
Three.
We, Brandy, I haven't seen it yet, but Brandy did a draft of the dates.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice to see that draft. maybe.
Yeah.
We never had a chance to do it on high school. Could we, could we do a report?
Yep.
Put it on, maybe one of your communications?
Yep. Yep.
I'd like to know if they're doing anything, meeting with students and, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't wonder if you're good on how it's done.
Now that David said that was Cisco, it's not gonna happen. or-
Not this next coming school year, we just met with Cisco again. I think it's earmarked for 2021, I don't know, I've lost all days.
She,
They were all gone home.
last year.
The reason I ask who monitors is that it's just periodically that I notice when I go on to the high school campuses, that at Nogales, the sheriff there would park his car right in front,
Uh-huh.
whereas Rowan High,
Mhm.
he sometimes parks it way in the back.
So he moves his purposefully and strategically,
You know,
because there's still with instruction, there's different entrance points. So a lot of times he parks it in the red on Otterbein, or he parks it right in front of the office, he parks it on Valencia,
okay.
so he moves his purposefully.
So I go to Nogales, when I drive into the parking lot, there's the sheriff's car.
Right.
Whereas Roland, I don't necessarily see it,
Right.
unless I go way to the back.
Now, when you say way to the back, you mean by the gym?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
walk way to the
Yep,
gym.
yep. Yeah, there's 4 places where he moves it, sometimes 5, sometimes he's over by the football field, but not usually.
Because it does work, seeing that when you get out on campus and sheriff program. Sometimes I wonder if we should just put a dummy one there.
Cardboard.
Yeah.
Like in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Anything else on the
On just our governance workshop
study
part.
sessions, nothing? So board recognitions? I know
Right.
Donna had something she
I
wanted to bring
was
up.
thinking if we could possibly help the board feel if we gave, what's his name, Brad Pollock, and the students that went to London, certificates and say thank you for representing our district. Wow, what an amazing thing. I mean, people sent me videos and all this, like, look, here are your kids, and it was really nice. So that was just an
Will you
idea.
just single out certain students, the ones that went, give them, not all of them?
No, the one that went to London, just to say thank you. I mean, they had to raise a lot of money, and they just represented our school really great. I mean, our school district, amazing.
How many are you talking about? How many would that be?
55.
55 students?
And there were 75 in total, or 80 in total that went, and then it was about 53 kids.
Will we be recognizing that board member? Like
That's what I was
teams and
suggesting.
stuff?
Because we did recognize them when they were selected. We did bring a certificate for the program, and we recognized them at that big, what was that, like a rally?
Assembly?
Assembly, yeah, where all of the band members were there. 'Cause remember, there's a number of the band members were not able to travel.
Was there any major supporters, donations?
No, and there were donations. We certainly did receive donations, but there was not, a
Big.
big break.
That would be even former students went and seventh graders went that weren't part of Nogales, but they were.
It was open to any student in the district.
So that was really nice, so we could recognize all of those that went. That's what my suggestion was, but it's up to the board.
You recognize the parents too. Parents support.
That's a job.
We can do it as a group, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I
Have
was
the
saying.
parents, all the
Just-
parents that were involved come up and clap and thank you for your support or something.
Just have them stand.
Yeah, that's a good
They
idea.
were loud.
And then, but as far as the giving of the certificates, I know when we have our end of the year awards where we have like,
Volunteer.
yeah. I wish sometimes I wish we had a bigger,
Facility.
yeah, room, place, spot to do it, because then there's no parking and people get anxious and there's no seating, and that's the hard part.
Maybe we can have the points.
Well,
We have to have a board.
And since Brad is leaving, maybe we could, tell him thank you for all that he's done for us.
Yeah.
That's why. Or maybe it'd be better to do it like right before we go to closed session. Can we do it at that time, at 4:30, and then, or 4
Some of the
o'clock?
students and parents could come at that time.
Oh, okay. I was thinking after school, they could just come straight here, but then parents are, yeah, working.
Well, first of all, we got to decide that we want to do it.
That's true.
I'm thinking of what Dr. Mitchell was saying, that we did go to Nogales, and the entire Noble band was there.
That was when they got the acceptance, and
Right.
they came from London to
Right.
invite them.
Right.
That was it.
And what I'm thinking is, only certain ones that raised the money got to go.
Right.
Others that were members of the Noble Band didn't get to go because they didn't have the finances or couldn't raise the money or whatever.
Mhm.
Some of it had to do with the ability to travel overseas.
Well, that
Yeah,
too,
kids that
that
didn't have the
too.
ability to travel
That
overseas.
too. Nowadays, I forgot about that. And so there was a lot of reasons that some couldn't go.
Right.
And I don't know, I kind of feel like we're recognizing those that were privileged to go, whereas those that weren't privileged to go don't get recognized, even though they practiced and they were part of that Noble Band the entire year.
Well, these are a lot of kids too that weren't part of the band anymore, like they're in 7th or 8th grade, and then ones that are older already graduated from
Right.
Nogales went.
Right.
But they represented our district proudly, so I feel like, wow, thank you.
But others wanted to represent that couldn't.
What about a compromise to have them have the certificates sent to each of their school sites? Because you said like some of them were middle school and, some were
And out of high school,
at the
too.
high schools and stuff. We could mail them theirs, but maybe at the other ones, how they do assemblies at the school sites or at band practice for the ones who are in the band where they can present the certificates, and if they let us know when they're going to do it, then maybe board member could go there. That way, they kind of feel still like, yay, but there's not that coordination piece to try to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way
Yeah.
to do it.
Well, if we wanted to recognize them, then we could send an invitation to them, and we could make it that that's the only group we're recognizing at that meeting, so it's not large, like, because of size and impacting and so forth. We could do that, we could do certificates, we could, we have recognized them. I think part of it too is that, I want to make sure that they absolutely went through a lot of effort and did a great job representing our district. There was a lot of dynamics in making that all happen, and a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that weren't there was a lot of work that went into all of that, but by all people involved. I just want to make sure that a good thing doesn't turn around and say, because there's the opportunity for somebody to say, oh, now you want to recognize us, but you didn't support us when we were trying to get there.
But we do, we approve. I'm just, that my job is to say, I think, and those kids did a lot, their parents
Right.
did a lot, they traveled a lot, they practiced a lot, and there were representation from, I think it was 4 schools in the district that were there, so it wasn't, they joined Nogales, that was in the RUSD News yesterday, it went out. We can figure it out, we can make it happen, we can do the certificates, we can do that, it's not a problem. The standard practice that we have around certificates is that if someone has competed in something and had first, second, or third place, we recognize them at a board meeting. Things then that are outliers are like Eagle Scout, because that's like first place. You know, the golden recognition for a Girl Scout. This would be something that would be an outlier. Or like when we have the sports teams, we don't recognize every sports team. We recognize the sports teams that have placed first, second, or third place. At the fair, those people that are first, second, or third place for photography and some of those kinds of things. So that's the standard practice we've always used. And then we have the outliers, and this is one of those.
Donna, would you be okay with them being given out at their individual
It's not
schools?
the same. It's nice, but it's not the same. Remember, we approved some Chinese people that came, and they weren't even our students. And I was outvoted, but we gave certificates to
No, I
them.
agreed with you.
Oh, you and I. But here we are having our own kids represent our district, and we're gonna say no. That, I just feel like this is a really wonderful thing that happened for our district, and it's our way to say, thank you.
Good job.
That's all. Yeah, good job. And that's it. And it doesn't take that long, and I just thought it would be a really nice thing. And Brad too, to say thank you for making this happen in all the years that he's been
Well,
here.
let's do the kids first, then we'll Brett second.
Okay.
Well,
I don't disagree with you at the same
but I
time.
think the
Yeah.
award for the kids, where did they got to take that trip? Is why they got to take the trip. They got to go to London.
That's true.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten to go.
I've come around
I don't
outside of you.
I think what Julie said is probably the best answer to it, have it on a board meeting when we don't have a huge crowd. And just have it, just those students and Brad and that's it.
What time do we usually start our study sessions?
4:30.
We could do it on a study session, maybe before a study session.
I think they won't, a lot of parents can come.
Yeah, we could do it at the end of the study session. We could say we'll recognize you at 6:30.
6 o'clock or
on
whatever
the study
it is.
session. We can kind of play it by ear and see.
Yeah.
That sounds
Would
good.
that be
That
okay?
sounds wonderful.
And then there's like room and.
Parents can come.
Yeah.
But if we have the study session in here, if the parents come early, where are they gonna
Well, study sessions are open for anybody.
Oh, yeah.
There's chairs. You know, they
go?
can-
If we have 50 people,
But
But
we're
they
just
set up a
saying,
little
if we
different.
say it starts at 6:30, the recognition starts at 6:30, we just make sure we're on time, President.
Well, and I can look at what our calendar looks like. I can look to see what, because like our January meeting, we have very few, I think there's 4 recognitions on the January meeting. Now it's a little bit short notice to
Yeah.
get 50 people to come, right, that
But
day.
all of them are gonna show up anyway. I mean,
No,
you
and then
might
on,
be surprised
so we
at
can look
half.
at that. Part of it is, I don't know what other community are gonna come on any given night either.
Right.
And then the further we get away from it, the event too, the further, but if we can do it in February, January, February.
okay? So we'll do recognitions for the students that attended the London Day Parade in February.
The only recognitions that are hard to me are the ones that start happening at the end of the year. Because all of a sudden, we have, 50 programs that need to be recognized. The parents can't get in the boardroom, and nobody can see. People are in the hallway and outside on the patio, and you can't hear, and it's chaos.
Well, what happens, what that usually is we have Science Olympiad, and then it's all of the spring sports that end at the same time, and we can't delay them, because they're seniors, they're gonna graduate, we're done.
I left the study session maybe right after our study session.
And
maybe we split up some of those things after study sessions too.
Maybe.
Just, I mean,
I don't think
just
we
so that
have any
parents
in
can,
here. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, come in and see,
Well,
because
if
I
it
know
was-
a lot of parents couldn't even get in the room and they're trying to fight to get in to see their kid get a
Yeah.
certificate.
Are we allowed to have the board meeting somewhere else?
Sure, our board bylaws have our business meetings at this location. So, but I was just thinking along that lines, it isn't that we could do it like we do we just have a student recognition
Recognition.
assembly and do it at a different location. And that's all we do, is just recognize kids. So they come in and they take pictures and kind of like how
It
we,
only take a couple of hours, if that, you know.
oh, wouldn't it take that? I don't
Yeah,
think.
just to, yeah, I
But
think
if
that's
we
a
could
good
have it-
idea.
You know, how like we do, it's coming, it's almost there. Employee, retirees,
Oh,
and longevity.
right,
Right,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
So that's the event that we have
Yeah.
that. So, and it wouldn't have to be here, we do it at another location.
No one appreciates.
But then maybe more, I think that, do that one maybe in the spring or do some of those. I'll look at that. Do you want me to look at that as an
Yeah,
idea?
that would be great.
Okay, I'll look at that as an idea.
I think I ought to try with you guys. So.
Part of it is hard to get up and down off the stage to get words. So, I will look at it. I mean, we haven't been in there yet. We haven't used it yet.
Maybe the
Let's
multi-purpose
use
room
it.
at-
Yeah, but I'm
It's
thinking,
easy.
I'm thinking the multi-purpose room. I'm also thinking, like how we did race graduation, like in a gym, we have, or an awards night or something. Just, I mean, we have big spaces.
Oh,
We can
yeah.
find a big space. We have space.
That'd be good.
As soon as we get the air conditioning in, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
But an awards night would be nice.
I like that.
Doing like an awards night.
Okay, yeah. All right, we have to now go to a different item on our agenda, David.
Yeah.
So we are now on item B.
Wow, we're moving right along.
Get our gas now. So just do on your highlighted yellow,
Yeah.
the other one. Next page, on your desk, sitting on the desk.
Underneath.
There you go. So item B.
Okay.
I'm gonna, just turn it to me and I'm gonna table it. Because we adopted the agenda. Yeah.
The board will review the 2019-2020 school year overall goals and district direction and focus areas. I will turn it over to Dr. Mitchell at this time.
So one of the things that you asked me to do was a mid-year review. In May last year, you asked me to do a mid-year review. And so I have been working on a mid-year review. I hope that you realize that starting in October, you got information every week that would relate to that mid-year review. So all the topics, so particularly around academics, so what are we doing around meeting our academic goals? So my intent is on Friday the 24th is to provide you a mid-year review packet, but I've written it 3 different ways now, and the way that I think might work best for you is to actually just republish the pieces I've already given you, so when you see it, yeah, because if I put it in a book, it looks like it's all brand new information, and you're gonna go, actually, these 40 pages. Versus if I say, here are the main highlights in terms of academics, because there's some new, but then here's the other pieces that we've given you in the past, and then you can skim it, and you'll know, oh, I already read that, I already read that, I already read that. So, and
I was going to say, oh my gosh, that's it? That's all?
no, that's different. That's different. But like this, that is, no, that's right. So these are just excerpts that have come out of these Friday letters that, this one's about supporting continuous improvement and enrollment. So the things you asked me for, rather than waiting for January, I've been trying to do little weekly pieces all along. So I worked on, I reformatted all this and was rewriting all of it. And I thought, no, because then you're going to think it's brand new information. Then you're going to get halfway through it and get mad because they already read this. So I have some that's new and some that's old, and I was going to put them together.
What did you title it in that particular one that you have?
I just put revised for instructional focus because that's the mid-year review you asked me for.
And then you put mid-year review of the month that it's for, and then you have to write.
Oh.
You have to do that.
Oh, well, okay, that's genius of you. So what I put was what it was. I told you the wrong. So this one was supporting continuous improvement in Roland, which was when you had asked. Professional development in Roland, which is when continued professional development, and there's multiple titles, like English Learner Program and supports. Those were all the things you asked me to give you, but I didn't put in the title mid-year review. So I could have said in October, mid-year review, but then you would have said mid-year, it's only October. But
I would still say add that, mid-year update.
Yeah.
I would just say add those, it has all the information, so
Yeah.
review them all. And go
That's
through
what I
it.
think, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time we did it, and then this third time I did it, and I thought, if someone handed me something and presented it like it was all brand new, it's not brand new. There's a lot that's new.
And we'll send her email.
Yeah, that's right, I would get hate mail. There's a lot that's new, but there's a lot that's not. And so I can differentiate the two by the way that it looks. So then as you're looking through it, you'll know, oh, she answered the question, and here's the progression of it. But as you read it, it'll be familiar. Is that okay? Yeah. All right, so, and we are, so part of it was I was gonna share some of that today, but I'll do it on the 24th, because we're out of time. There, we didn't have to do anything to the agenda. See? Got that. Now we're on to item 3, item C.
I have a motion and a second to amend the 2019-2020 Board of Education meeting schedule and cancel the January 17, 2020 Board of Education study session.
I make a motion. I'll second.
Are there any, we have
I motion
Angelina and
done.
Don second. Are there any questions or discussions?
Thank you guys for accommodating my schedule.
Is there something you would think?
Well, I'm just looking at the wording. So it says,
We're not really canceling it,
Well, because it's
scheduled
today,
it.
so we scheduled it for today, so we're canceling it. So today's is considered a special study session, and that study session will get canceled. And then do we want to start 23rd at 4 o'clock? January 23rd at 4 o'clock? Yeah?
I
I already put that on my.
Yeah, I just wanted to verify.
Okay. All those in favor of canceling the January 17th, 2020 Board of Education study session?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
where are you saying? Oh,
Yes.
When you have 5 guests, you don't need to ask about abstaining.
Sorry.
Okay. And then we're going to return to, we are going to return to closed session.
Then do you have to have a motion to start the meeting before?
No.
No.
So that's the understanding.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we just need to adjourn to closed session.
Yeah, we're going to adjourn to closed session now at
1:11.
1:11. 1:11.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're going back into closed session. Thank you, Mr. Humphreys.
Good night.